This great nation of ours is at war with itself. Forces of order and virtue battling extreme evil. We will take back this country from the corrupt weaklings. We will succeed.
Welcome to DC Fandome. My name is Laura Prudham from IGN.com, and you're watching the Pennyworth panel. Joining me today are the stars of Pennyworth, Jack Bannon, Ben Aldridge, Paloma Faith, and Emma Pates, along with executive producer and creator Bruno Heller, and executive producer and director Danny Cannon. Welcome, everyone. So, season 1 wrapped up back in September, which now seems like 100 years ago. But I want to start by looking back at kind of the genesis of the show and some of the biggest moments from the first season. So I guess, Bruno, we'll kick off with you. Coming off Gotham, what made you decide you wanted to tackle Alfred's story? What was the kind of key fascination with that character?
The key thing there was that you've got this character who is central to the Batman Gotham mythology, literally one of the most famous characters in the world, Alfred, but no one really knew anything about his backstory. He's kind of a man on his own, a man to himself. So when you have a character like that has this very vivid present, it just seemed natural to want to know, or put another way, how does an SAS soldier, a highly decorated, militant, violent guy like that, become a butler?
Danny, as the director of the first 2 episodes and the finale, we should note, you got to kind of establish the look and the tone of the series. So can you tell us a little bit about how you and Bruno kind of found the right vibe and the right aesthetic for it?
Being a DC property, you have this freedom to work within fantasy and realities. And as long as we kept our feet on the ground and everybody could relate to what they're watching and remember what they were watching, like Bruno said in the script, you can go 13 degrees different. That opened us up and gave us a freedom to be a bit more creative with the world that Alfred would inhabit.
Jack, since the show is obviously a prequel to other portrayals of Alfred that we've seen, I read that you guys kind of tried not to lean too heavily on the comics or kind of other portrayals that had come before because they were actually coming after, beyond kind of a slight maybe to Michael Caine. So was there a certain point in season 1 where you really felt that the character was your own, where you realized, I've got him?
But I think it was later on in the body of the series, probably somewhere in episodes 2, 3, that I really started to find his rhythm, I felt. And it got to the stage where, Bruno's writing so good that I was able, coupled with my greater understanding of the character as it went on, I think I was almost able to kind of not learn my lines and kind of guess what he might say, and that for me was
that what you call it?
Because I'm lazy, was quite a breakthrough. Yeah, so that was good.
He's being modest because actually when he walked into the table read, up until the table read, he was Jack Bannon. He walked into the table read and it was uncanny. He suddenly had the cool authority of the classic Alfred character.
And I saw Jack in a suit and I opened the stage doors and I said, Jack, do the walk, because we got a silhouette shot of Jack walking just towards camera, and something clicked for me then, and that walk actually made it into the title design.
I was going to say the title sequence is so beautiful and sets the scene so well for the tone of the show. And obviously, Alfie really went through the ringer in season 1 between kind of losing Esme and having to shoot his own father. It was quite a journey. So I'm curious kind of how you feel his trials and tribulations shaped him over the course of season 1, and what your favorite part of that trajectory was for him.
The way I sort of viewed it was he goes from a boy to a man, really. In the pilot, he's knocking about and he's still at home, and his parents have a lot to do with it. And if I had to pick one, I think episode 3, when I'm with Emma, with Martha Kane in the aircraft hangar, he goes outside and there's the issue with the woman outside, and then he comes back in and he blah, blah, blah. And he's 2 steps ahead of everybody there. And that for me, as an actor as well, was a moment where I was like, actually, this is him in a nutshell. He's got it all sorted long before anybody's even tried to, outwit him or whatever.
Ben, one of the most interesting scenes in season 1, from my perspective, came from almost kind of confronting his dark side, if we want to call it that, in Aleister Crowley's basement. So I'm how you kind of approach that scene and whether you feel like there are any lingering repercussions from that brush with the devil, perhaps.
I'm still very angry about it. Yeah. I that was a real surprise to me. I think none of us saw that coming. And reading it, I was like, "Wow, okay." I didn't definitely didn't know it's headed in that direction. And then filming it, we actually had. I think I'm allowed to say this. We had two different endings of that episode. Am I allowed to say this, Bruno? One where Thomas strangled him and then burnt him alive after filling his mouth with film reel, and another where he almost kills him and then he's kind of consumed by this rage and then he stops himself just before that moment. So I didn't know for ages how that was which one we were gonna do. Obviously, we filmed both versions.
Emma, I love that the show is kind of expanding Martha's backstory beyond her just being kind of the catalyst for Bruce's eventual, career turn as Batman. So I'm curious kind of how much you know about her past as it stands now, either in terms of what Bruno's let you in on or what you've kind of come up with yourself to inform her character and how you're kind of tracing out her trajectory.
She's not in the comics loads, any of them. She's going through them. One, there's like so many different versions that I've found it not entirely helpful to go off that rather than what's on the page with what Bruno's created, because you'll kind of get your mind into knots about what you're playing when actually it's there on the page. And two, she's not in it that much. She's only there as Bruce's mother. We don't really know much more about her than that. There's bits and pieces, but I think that's what's so great about the show, is seeing more than that for both her and Thomas.
With all the female characters in the show, like, it's important to sort of contextualize historically. When we're in the 60s, we're talking about a time of change, like they were fighting for, the feminist movement, and there was like the women's liberation movement at that time. And obviously, like, America was a bit further ahead of the UK in that. So I think when I watch it and I see Martha Kane, like, she's like so kind of like comfortable in her own skin, she makes decisions in the way that it slightly offsets some of the British female. Like, I know from my perspective, like, I'm a bit torn between what I'd like to be as a British woman and what I am able to be on a social level. And I feel like I like the playing with the differences between that when I watch it, like American and British.
Yeah, the dichotomy is so great. And yeah, I think it just speaks to the kind of strength of Bruno's writing, that like all of the show are so vivid and well realized and, twisted in their own ways, some of them, and just so deeply layered that, there's not for a moment you're like, oh, this is just Batman's mum and that's all there is to her. I think that extra context is just so fascinating. Paloma, you obviously kind of leading on from that, you had the kind of double-edged sword of playing a character who isn't in the comics, so you don't have any expectations, but there's also no kind of particular source material you can delve into if you want to be nerdy about it.
Luxury. But it also means that I can definitely be killed.
Those are the kind of actors that writers and directors love.
Well, what was that like for you? Was it kind of liberating to have that free reign? And did you have kind of any input into shaping who Bet ended up being? Because she is just one of my favorite characters, period, for years.
I based the way that I wanted to look on this famous East London gangster's wife. When I met this woman, I felt like she was vulnerable because she was very threatened by me, but she was also really hardened and damaged. And women who've experienced a lot of hard knocks tend to come across maybe as more threatening or more angry, when actually they're usually more the victims than the softer women. So I sort of wanted to play her quite hard, but in my back of my head, I know it's because she's damaged.
I was going to say, there's such a vulnerability to her beneath the violence, just the kind of craving that she has for this family unit that she kind of ends up creating, which is just so fascinating.
This is classic Paloma, actually, because that's the sociological explanation of the character. But what she does is make all that stuff very funny and fun to watch.
Well, Bruno, speaking about the kind of strong female characters in the show, I had to ask about the season 1 episode titles, because apart from the first 3, the rest all kind of pay homage to iconic real life women in the era. So I was curious, why you decided to go that route, and if you can give us any hint about what the episode titles in season 2 might follow in terms of theme.
So I started just for my own self, like, you need some kind of division. So I just, Alma Kogan, I think, all right. And then it was just like, all right, keep doing that. Yeah, I'm afraid there's nothing more mysterious in that than that.
I like it though, because I was watching it with my parents and they were like, Lady Penelope. And I was like, yeah, why not? So let's talk season 2. You guys, I think, had started filming before the pandemic halted productions across the world. So Bruno, can you give us kind of a preview of the arc of the season and how it might differ from season 1? Anything you can ease at this early?
Season 2, he's now, and you'll see the difference, he's a harder, more sort of hairy, he couldn't be more masculine than Jack is already, but he's hardened, he's cynical. You know, basically after what's happened, he's desperate to get out of London and start the mythical life that we know he had in America. But he's got family ties and he's got loyalties in London, so he's basically torn between freedom, which for him is America, and all the old ties and binds that keep him in London. And that's essentially his journey through season 2. I have to remind the actors what happened. Ben, you got shot, and you'll be glad to know that you survived.
Right.
He goes back to America for the year to recuperate, and he starts moving up in the CIA. He comes back to London as the CIA station chief, and Martha has been there the whole time, and her transformation has probably been the largest of any of these characters, because she has gone full on into the Civil War, and being Batman's mum, she sort of found herself in the conflict. She's like a sort of, she's a cross between Lady Penelope and Che Guevara, really. I made that up just now, so don't hold me to that as future reference. Should I give you the big Easter egg for the season for these two that they don't know about yet?
Please.
This season, Martha gets pregnant.
Ooh. Like it. Well, I want to pivot to fan questions because we've got some questions submitted from fans around the world. So I want to get to those. And advance if I muck up anyone's name. Diogo Oliveira from Brazil asks, what is the possibility we will get to see more Batman-related or DC characters in the show in season 2? Bruno, do you want to field that one?
Yeah, and I guess I can say that there's little bits of there's Batman stuff that is coming in that I don't want to talk about because, you know, that stuff is best left as a surprise, and those who get it and those who don't. But the big Batman mythology character that is coming that we're going to meet this season is Lucius Fox.
Love that. Nate from Canada asks, was the choice to make Martha a spy taken from a comic book, or was it an original decision?
Everything I do in my life is taken from a comic book. I just don't know it. No, it was an original decision because, as Emma said earlier, Martha is very underserved in the comic books. One of the joys of that character is being able to create, you know, a whole person from whole cloth. And, you know, essentially the character is, Emma is now the iconic Martha Wayne, and she's creating that character for us.
Franco from Chile asks, based on Alfred's experience and knowledge, if he wanted to, could he be a villain capable of defeating Batman physically and mentally?
Yes. Definitely. Yeah, of course he could. He's taught Batman everything he knows, so he can quite easily gain the upper hand and defeat Batman if he wanted to.
The final fan question then, Jason Kane from the United States, good name, asks, the set design and costumes were amazing, really bringing the world of Pennyworth to life. Could you tell me a little bit about the process behind both?
I think we just, again, you don't just hire talented people, you hire people that really feel passionate about the material. And those experts having those people around you. Like I said, in a pilot, you constantly have this discussion of that's the right gun, that's the wrong gun, that's the right car, that's the wrong car. And you build this palette that you use from that point onwards, very much like actors finding their character. Your production designer finds his world, your costume designer finds their world. And it's tricky, it's really painstaking in the first few episodes, but once everybody gets it and we're all in the same world at that point, then the flair comes, and then people start making taking risks and going off book a little bit, and that's when things get really exciting, like season 2.
I have to say as well, from my point of view, not speaking on behalf of all the actors, the pilot and the camera tests and the watching the other departments find their the costume and the look of it all was very helpful for us as well. And I think the final piece of the puzzle almost was stepping onto the sets, and what Bruno had written down was so perfectly realized physically, that for me, stepping onto the sets and going, oh, actually I really get where this is pitched now, that was very useful. Yeah.
Thank you to all the fans for sending those in. Great questions. We're going to wrap things up with a rapid fire question round that we're calling, wait for it, Penny for your thoughts. So we want you guys to just, I know, hold your applause, really good.
That's so good.
So we just want you to answer with the first thing that pops into your head, go kind of down the line in order to just kind of keep it quick. So we'll start with Jack. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Flying.
Telekinesis.
Fine.
Invisibility.
I'd like to be fly invisibly.
Okay. What is the best British band of all time?
Rolling Stones.
Spice Girls.
The Slits.
Rolling Stones.
The Who.
Status quo.
I want to change mine to Pink Floyd.
This is supposed to be rapid fire, guys.
Sorry, I'm sticking to Spice Girls.
What is your go-to karaoke song, Jack?
We've all been to karaoke together.
What did we sing? We went to karaoke twice in LA.
You didn't sing anything, Jack. You ran away and you stood on the street.
Hey, come on. I said I don't do karaoke, and then I had to have the mic torn out of my hand, I think. We sang a fair bit. I didn't sing this, but I'm quite good at Snoop Dogg, Drop It Like It's Hot.
It's probably some Alanis Morissette.
White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane. And there's a lot of pictures of me doing it, and I look like the angriest karaokeer in the land. I don't think I really got the vibe of the song. I was just sort of screaming it at my grandma. It wasn't very good.
I Will Always Love You, Whitney Houston.
It's really not fair going karaoke with Paloma, by the way.
No.
Just saying.
No.
I enjoy myself.
Jackie by Scott Walker.
There's a very short list of songs you can do. It's either Sweet Caroline or Folsom Prison Blues or My Way.
Final question then. Describe Pennyworth season 2 in one word.
Non-existent at the minute.
Sexier.
Dynamic.
I would say war.
That's unfortunately all we have time for, so I want to thank the cast and producers of Pennyworth so much for taking the time to talk, and thank all of you at home for watching. I can't wait to see what Pennyworth season 2 has in store. Bye everyone.
See you.
See you.
See you guys soon.
Bye, guys.